President Mills won the 2008 elections with the narrowest of margins. The election was characterized by tension, sporadic violence, and some ethnic voting. The eventual success of the 2008 polls and the peaceful change of government was largely attributed to the system in place. The Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, CODU, which comprises of 36 independent, non-partisan organizations, has mobilized thousands of citizens to undertake nationwide poll watching since 2000. The introduction of a parallel vote tally (PVT) system by CODU in 2008 broke new ground in civil society's ability to actually independently verify the election results announced by the Electoral Commission. Also, the presence of local observers, the media, combined with the unprecedented number of international observer groups in Ghana ahead of 2008 elections, certainly boosted electoral transparency and public confidence in the process. With the objective to promote free, fair and transparent elections, to prevent electoral fraud and definitely encourage citizens to participate in elections, CODU is set to launch in Ghana. Its Ghana 2012 project tomorrow. And ahead of the launch, we are actually talking to them to look at the training of 50 regional coordinators who will recruit 665 trainers again nationwide to monitor the coalition's pre-election activities. And it's interesting, my first question to them would be, what are these pre-election activities and how will they contribute to the actual elections? I mean, there's the much talked about 2012 elections that we're all looking forward to. Welcome again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
CODU is set to launch its trainers, the trainers of the 50 regional coordinators, right, to start, to kickstart. Now, what are these activities?
For elections to take place in every country, there are activities, events that prepare us, the voters, that prepare the candidates, that prepare the whole country before election date. Very soon, 24th of this month, there will be the registration of voters, the one we call biometric registration. And it's going to be a new registration. The voters register that we have used since the last election, 2008, is going to be put aside completely. So a new voters register will be compiled. And you know, when you go to vote, you must be registered. You must have your name somewhere that you are Ghanaian, you are a bona fide voter. Therefore, that activity is going to take place nationwide for several days, 40 days we hear. And it's an activity that we would be interested in, to monitor it, to observe it, to see whether it is done properly, whether the Electoral Commission, whether the voters, Ghanaians, actually do it and do it with happiness, so that at the end, everybody's name who is qualified, everybody's name will be on the register to vote. That is one. After that, the Electoral Commission's program will follow with what we call exhibition. That is exhibition of the voters register that must have been compiled during the registration to find out if there are certain mistakes in the register, names, addresses of the voters. These mistakes will be corrected before what we call a provisional register is done. Then, after that register is done, we will go to nomination of candidates. Now it goes to the political parties. Who are your candidates for president? Who are your candidates for the various parliamentary constituencies? So they will do their primaries. I hear they're doing some of it now. They will do their primaries, presidential and parliamentary. And the names that come up in their various parties as candidates for these two positions would be filed with the Electoral Commission. It is then that the Electoral Commission and all of us in this country know that these are candidates to contest the 2012 election in December.
Interesting that you're observing, but what are your specific roles and how do you intend to actually be able to monitor effectively? Because there are other, stakeholder agencies who are working with the government structures to actually facilitate that everything goes smoothly. So why CODU?
Well, CODU, it's important because CODU, Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, it's a coalition of civil society organizations. And civil society organizations are not government organizations. They are not electoral commission. They are not political parties. They are not candidates. So these are independent, non-partisan individuals from organizations that come together to do this. Therefore, they do not have any special interest, selfish interest, apart from the interests of this whole country. That whatever events, whatever activities we undertake are undertaken according to the rules, according to the laws, and in the interest of the generality of Ghana and Ghanaians.
Sheikh,
yeah,
can you add on to that?
Yeah. Thank you so much. If you rightly, listed some of the basic objectives of CODIO, one of which you mentioned is also to protect the integrity of the system and to also prevent fraud, to ensure that the system is well arranged so much so that whatever results come out of it will be so credible and acceptable to people. And one of the fallouts or the good things that comes of this is that we'll be able to maintain the unity and peace of our country. Yeah. So CODIO will be interested to really monitor the biometric registration, get educated ourselves very well about it, train people to also understand the system very well, and to be part of the observation of the registration to ensure that people have been given the fair chance and accessibility to the process without any intimidation to be able to...
And you think that as an independent body, you're more likely to do that better than perhaps state institutions?
No. You see, what CODIO does, what I say is a shared responsibility. The key organization, for example, the EC is there who has the mandate to really take over this. But EC, from all indications, we can say that cannot be able to reach all out and cover effectively all the grounds. And that is why citizenship, responsible citizenship, requires that you lend a hand of support to government institutions so that objectives can be reached. It is in that vein that CODIO, that's why CODIO has a very good working relationship with EC, for example. We are able to communicate with EC if we have made some pre-election observation of things that we think are detrimental. We are able to raise an alarm or call and say, look, we have observed A, B, C, D, and then the EC will then take it over. For example, in the workshop that we are doing, for example, we have to engage the service of EC officials who now can give us the insight into the new process which we are going to engage in. Okay. So that is it. And then the other side has to do with having equipped ourselves with the knowledge. I think public education is very, very key in this. Because for you to get the citizens to cooperate and do what it takes, they also have a right to be well informed and to be well educated about the system. It will be a violation of their rights or a deception in a way that you tell them that this is a system that allows you to vote and the people are unaware of the mechanisms that they are going to, then you would have denied them the information that makes them able. In other words, you now disable them even in the process. So our role in assisting education is to enable citizens to understand the system very well and to make use of it.
Okay, let's take a look at the content of the training. And I might want to ask if there were any particular observations you made during the last elections that you have sought to, for want of a better word, correct or improve for the upcoming 2012 elections.
Well, the content of the election observation program is generally to let the observers understand what it is to observe an election and what are the objectives. Why do you want to observe an election? And then, as we are discussing, and then if they really know why they are doing that, then we take them through how to do it. How to do it well so that you don't cross source with any other stakeholder. How to do it independently and objectively, therefore, so that the political parties, for example, don't read meanings into it. Because you say you claim that you do not belong to any political party. You're not partisan. Therefore, what you're doing is independent and objective. Nobody has sent you to do it. You want to do it yourself. So all this we explain to them. And then, importantly, we prepare what we call questionnaire or checklists as to what to look for, to find that what is there is right according to the rules, regulations, and laws, or it is not quite right according to the rules, regulations, and laws. So that if it is not right, then CODEO as a body will have to look into it and say, where has it gone wrong? Then immediately CODEO normally will take action by informing the stakeholders whose responsibility is to make it actually right, or informing the whole general public about what is going right or wrong with the process. All this, we do it so that we can promote trust, encourage the people to know that our electoral process in Ghana can be trusted. In some countries, because this is not done and done very well, elections are done just by a group of people, and the others don't really care what is happening. But this one, we want to involve everybody, all Ghanaians, whether you're just a voter or a candidate or an observer, you all must understand the political process and take part in it. And if you understand it very well, you know the rules and regulations. Certainly, if something is not going too well, you will know. And therefore, you want it to be addressed.
What are some of the red flags that you have observed in the past that weren't perhaps going too well?
Well, for example, when we had elections, we have heard about people who go to the polling stations and their names are not in the register. Their names have been omitted. And then there are
pretty basic but critical, right?
Yes, yeah. It's very basic but very critical. I mean, in other words, you're talking about disenfranchisement.
That's right.
You're taking the right to vote from a Ghanaian who wants to vote, and that is pretty serious. That is one. We also know about issues of materials for the polls that are either short or of poor quality. We also know about the behavior of the contestants or their representatives in the various elections, where, for example, contestant representatives may go and cause a lot of commotion in polling stations because the situation, the system is such that they can actually bore holes into it. You remember Akotia, the last election, where it was possible for some representatives of political parties to disrupt the election in a number of polling stations, and actually even take the ballot boxes away. Now, these will find as observers, why was it so? Why was it not strong? Why was the system not more resistant? So we would want to proffer some suggestions that next time it should be done this way or that way. That is the type of thing we do when we find it out. Yes.
Sheikh, what are the standards you're using to actually put the system in place? And it's a system you want to put in place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's there is one thing that I just want to add. You see, in the old system, there was the tendency for people to register more than once, registering in one point and moving to another point to go and register. Now you have a system that is being put in place that makes it possible for you to register more than once. Just this afternoon, we had a demonstration where one person was made to have his input, his bio registered on the machine, and then having gone through and being given a simulation of a card, sort of. And then that person was made to come back and start the registration process again with his fingers and everything put there. Now you had a machine now which will register and give you an information that the features of this person is already registered, and therefore the second one is rejected. And the good thing about it is that then you cannot register twice. And then also the security mechanisms are also available that if you are caught in that particular sense, then you are handed over to the police so that you can be checked.
What are some of the observations you've made? Well, you've just mentioned one, but what are some other observations you've made? Do you find the biometric registration system watertight?
Yes, I
think. Would you say it's watertight with regards to double voting, curbing double voting?
Oh, sure. It is. Yes. It's going to be a very vast improvement upon what we used to have.
Is it watertight?
It's an improvement. If it is watertight, it's not watertight. It depends upon how we use it. For example, when we complain about double registration, that allows people to go and vote in one polling station, run to a second polling station and vote again because maybe they have 2 cards. Run to the third and do similar. This register is going to dissuade you. You cannot do it because the features that have been picked into the system, the digital picture that you have of your face, and then the fingerprints, these are unique, particularly the fingerprints. No 2 people's fingerprints are the same. And once you have these fingerprints, your fingerprints, all 10 of them in the system, it is very difficult for you to do it again because the fingerprints and your face and your name are in a database that will be checked against if your name appears somewhere else. Before the final register is done, all these double registration, multiple registrations will be checked out. Have you anticipated any other possible hitches? Not necessarily with double voting, but other issues that can crop up.
Yes. I mean, one of the things that we're
still focusing on pre-election activities.
Yes. Yeah. One of the possible hitches that we're looking at is the situation where there is an electricity failure at a place where people are being taken through the process. And this is a process where we want to do it once at a time so that one finishes. Now, wherever there happens to be any power outage and it affects the whole process, then it might give people a chance to move from one point A to point B, and that can create a problem for the process itself.
So how are you mitigating that? How are you contributing to?
Well, I mean, this is a matter for technology, and I foresee that it can be a challenge. And actually, when we raise it, the EC itself wants to look at how that one can be handled if ever it arises.
Another problem, another terrible problem we foresee is the citizenship. Even though registration is for Ghanaians of a certain age and of a certain sanity, the fingerprints of aliens, for example, will not be different or will not be distinct. Therefore, even though we say the system would take fingerprints and match against voters, there is no way, as of now, to detect that a foreigner or an alien or non-Ghanaian has slipped through the cracks and has registered.
Nor is there any way to detect that they have not been able to slip through?
Yes, there are ways. These are ways that we, as Ghanaians and voters, should use. For example, we need to be very, very vigilant. In our communities, we know who are Ghanaians, who are outsiders, who do not have the nationality of being a Ghanaian. Therefore, it is for us and the political parties and their agents to challenge. And we have done this over and over in the past. Now it is very, very crucial that we have to be very alert so that we challenge those we believe or we suspect are non-Ghanaians, so that they don't go onto our register. So that is the only major challenge I see.
My question to you is, how neutral are those of you who claim to be neutral? How can we guarantee that a certain political party would not come and see you and negotiate with you to advocate for their particular interest?
Good. I mean, CODIO, for example, has been in election observation for these past years. And in doing our work, we've been guided by certain principles from the CODIO Advisory Board itself down to those that we recruit to do the work. One of the principles that we uphold highly is the principle of impartiality and neutrality. That ourselves, by the way we carry ourselves, we could have a party to vote all right, but that in doing the work of election observation, we do not allow our inclination to any party, to show in it. It's a job that we are doing is more professional, and we center on that. Now, this principle is still used also to guide how we recruit those. If we ever find that in the way that you are doing the work, you show the slightest inclination to a political party. I'll give an example where John had to make sure that we now withdraw the service of somebody we had engaged, who had been nominated by his own organization, and yet was found later to be partisan, even around the time that they were doing the campaigning. And immediately that person was withdrawn. And that sent a signal to almost every person that had been engaged. So
you obviously would not engage a known party activist of any kind?
At all. I mean, election observation persons and groups do not play a frontline political activity. That one is completely.
Okay, we'll take a look at the standards with which you operate, but let's share some of the text messages from viewers. Oh, unfortunately, my iPad is not responding. But yes, please. I'm sure it will catch up with me later on. So, yes, what are the standards, Mr. Levy?
Yes, the standards of good election are, first of all, the election must be free. There must be freedom for the voters to vote, to decide to vote. My
question really is, do we have set standards from within? Set from within, looking at our particular challenges and needs? Or are we using an international standard, a particular code of ethics that is universally recognized to be, the instrument to measure observation and to facilitate?
That's what I actually started saying. The election observation everywhere, we are governed by the international standards, but particularly by the freedoms and rights that are announced in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That is highest. Then our own constitution, then our parent laws, and then the constitutional instruments that govern every aspect of the election. So when we are preparing our training our people, we let them know what these are about. So the standard that everybody in this country who is a Ghanaian is free to join a political party, to move, to express himself or herself is paramount. We uphold it very much. So that if you register to vote and then more or less you're discriminated against, you're denied voting, that is serious violation. So if you go to vote and then you do not find a polling station near your place to vote, that is a violation. So these and many others are the standards that guide us, and those are the standards that guide every election anywhere, because the citizen must be able to select their own governance in every society.
Let's take a look at your activities during elections. I know our focus is on pre-elections, but during elections, how do you use the preparatory processes that you go through to impact on free and fair elections?
Yeah, if I may just mention just one. For example, we do what we call a pre-election environment of observation and monitoring. We want to see, for example, areas of like abuse of incumbency.
Areas of?
Incumbency. I mean,
that being?
Abuse
of incumbency, like the governing party uses, government machinery, state machinery in the favor of that party that is also contesting. Is one of the areas that we're interested in. We are interested in monitoring campaigns as they unfold. Are they peaceful? Are they issue based? Is there a fair ground, for media coverage of the campaigns of every political party? Because these things are what now give grounds for what we call equality fair. Election cannot be fair when one group is denied the opportunity, for example, to keep out its message to the populace for them to make an informed choice about what programs are for the country. So we are interested to see state media institutions, for example, how equal have they been able to give the chance for all political parties, whether big or small, to also send across their messages.
And my question is, how have you been able to use your processes?
Yes.
Pre-election activities, preparations to impact on elections proper?
Oh, sure.
How?
Yes.
Because it's all well and good. It's one thing to observe
Yes.
and monitor. It's another to actually use whatever results that you have to take effect.
Yes.
Lavi, let me just add this, and then you come in. For example, when we do the pre-election monitoring, for example, we send press releases, for example, and give report about what we have observed. And draw attention to institutions that are responsible to do something about that. That helps enough, very well, to now alert, for example, if it's the EC that must do the job, if the NCCE that must be the job, then they must live up to expectation, and that helps, in impacting on the electoral process for us.
Mr. Lavi.
Yes, so, I mean, we watch, we observe, and we find problems with the system. How do you use this finding to improve the system? We are not policemen. We do not have law enforcement power. What we have, you have social sanction. So we let the stakeholders who are responsible for social and the general public know that this is what CODEO has discovered about the system. And we recommend response action. So, for example, if the situation, the law is that when you go on campaign, you try and hard and convince the people to believe in your manifesto. But you go there and you start buying votes, paying people, not talking to them, just paying people and building their houses for them, and you expect that they will come and vote for you. It is against the laws, the rules. So we'll say that, we'll cry it on rooftops, that this is wrong, please stop.
Have you made such observations previously?
We have several times. The last election, 2008, during the campaign period, there were situations where some campaign groups went to campaign at the dead of night, and we thought that was not good enough. There were campaign groups.
Was it the last day of elections?
No, when you say campaigns...
No, but why did you find it that at the dead of night it wasn't good enough?
Well,
was it breaking
it also, yes, it goes, yes,
How?
it goes against the public order also.
We're supposed to finish by 6? The campaigns?
No, I'm saying, yeah, I'm saying dead of night. See, the people in the villages will also complain because not everybody is even interested in election, or everybody is interested in party A or party B. So while you are doing something in the neighborhood, you are disturbing them. So we protect all of us from the players of the game. If they play the game to disturb you, we say that one also. If they play it to help you, we commend them. So those are some of the findings where we are not going to arrest them, but we make noises about them. And those of us who, and others who know that it is bad to get the populace into that type of suffering would also wake up and say, look, please don't do that. And it might affect your electoral fortunes, you know.
Have you worked outside the borders of Ghana?
Yes.
And did you make similar observations, or they're widely varied? Or did you make observations that were good there that you thought we could adopt?
Yeah, I in particular...
In advancing the cohesion of the sub-region?
Surely we have gone out to many other African countries to do the training and to coordinate the observation. And experiences are varied. There are places where even the political parties are not allowed in certain parts of the countries we go to because of tribal feelings. There are other places where the the security agencies are so beholden to government that during elections, what they should be providing and should be settling quarrels, they may rather take sides. There are other places where instead of getting registered in a voters register, people just use any identity card to vote, and sometimes it looks easier. There are places where the political parties are so much against each other that they cannot hold their campaigns near to each other at all. Several miles away, they will not. So when we go to train, we look at that and we discuss our own system with them. They find a few things good about ours and they may want to adopt them. And we also advise that if the laws and the rights and freedoms of the individuals must be protected, may they please change this or that.
Now, you've raised the issue of the security agencies, and you find that, you know, they need to stay neutral to be able to, you know, protect citizens. You may have made observations about our security agencies, perhaps, and what are they?
Yeah, with respect to our security agencies, both, I mean, military and the police, but in this particular case, more of the police. I mean, the police has a mandate to carry out their work to ensure that there's protection in the country, and to also maybe make sure that they curb crime and so on, including those that take place during our electoral seasons. We know the prevalence of maybe thugs or macho men who sometimes are engaged to, and which is criminal. I mean, for one to really seize a whole ballot box. So really, the police really have a role to play around that,
no, my question,
protection.
I appreciate that. Yes. Have you observed, you know, some political parties have raised issues with their lack of confidence in the police force, perhaps, that they may seem to be leaning towards, you know, the government in power. Do you find that to be true?
Well, I find it...
And as such, they will resort to protecting themselves in that regard, and hence perhaps the recruitment of these macho men that has become a thing of our time during elections.
It's difficult for one to point at evidence of police lack of neutrality. But at what we know, and even the chairman of the Electoral Commission has also raised, I mean, such a concern, that at the heat of election and tension, when we have noticed macho men breaking the rule and entering and seizing ballot box, occasionally you have found the police looking on powerlessly and allowing that thing to go on. It is difficult to say they have done so because they have an inclination, or sometimes I see because they themselves are overwhelmed so much by the situation, and people wield arms and so on and so forth. So under the circumstance, probably that is why they keep aloof and allow things to go. But probably not to say that.
We'll talk about that some more. But there are some text messages that I want to share with you. They're very keen. Some questions for you as well. Kenny Listo says more grease to Kodio because Ghana is the only country we have and we can't fail future generations. Dominic Danso also says that I would love to work with Kodio, and I'm in Infantsiman East. So who do I contact? Yeah. Oh, you are the one to contact? Dominic Dancer said, no, Al-Hassan Ishak Ma says, Kodio should be extra careful and should at all times stand by their words without any fear or favor. And Awati Nkuzikweku says, I think they will be fair in their reportage and should help in the fight against violence in election 2012. Albert Nepta, the security agencies should continue to act neutrally. No party executive or bigwig should be allowed to make or interfere with electoral officers' duties. And again, Dominic Isa says, please, I joined the program midway. What's the name of the woman hosting the show? Well, I'm glad you caught it in the middle of the show. However, Adu Godfred Kweku neutrality says neutrality and fairness should be the watchword in these observer institutions to gain the much needed credibility. We must put Ghana first and ahead of any partisan interest. And Moshood Yakubu says, how do I become a member of Kodio, I presume? And Isaac Big Bennett says, politicians must be told clearly In a language, they understand that elections are about counting heads and not about cutting heads. So they must be guided by their actions and inactions ahead of 2012, because Ghana is the only place we have. Indeed, Ghana is the only place we have. We're looking at strengthening local electoral observation in anticipation of the 2012 elections, and we're on the issue of the capability of the security agencies to stay neutral and to protect us. And so if we're looking at the police service or other security agencies who are stakeholders during elections for our protection, and it may not be, it cannot be said that they're linear to a particular party because they've stood, you know, not doing anything when wrong things are being done, you know, with regards to ballot box being taken away and chaos breaking out. Could it be that there are particular observations that you have made aside from what is perceived currently after the 2008 elections?
With the security agencies?
Yes.
Well,
what are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? If they're not linear to a particular party, and yet they don't seem to be too able to give us the protection that we need.
With regard to electoral offenses, the security or the police are entitled, are mandated to help the electoral commission, especially at the polling station level, to control. If there's a blatant electoral offense, they are supposed to solve the problem, to arrest the people who are committing the offense and to prosecute them. What we have discovered... Are they able
to do that effectively?
Yes. What we have discovered is that has not been done too effectively. A few cases of arrest and trial and imprisonment have happened in our electoral history, where some people who, for example, registered 3 times, 4 times, were arrested and prosecuted and jailed. But we thought that the police could do more than that. What happens is that when the wrongdoing happens, the police look on, they are waiting for somebody to command them to correct the situation. Remember 2008, the pre-election period, if you just remember what happened in Tamale.
If you would remind us.
Yes, what happened was that one particular party was having their rally somewhere, and the rule was that if you were going to have a rally close to your opponent's rally, you have to tell the police. They will decide where you should hold yours or when you should hold yours, so as to avoid clashes. Then the other party was not holding their rally, but I think the vice presidential candidate was passing through town. And that was like holding a rally. So a lot of people gathered, and then those people who were having their own rally first thought that this was an aggravation. Yes, so it happened. Now, nobody has been arrested and prosecuted on that. Well, you ask me again, what happened? So these are some of the problems that we who are watching elections say, why don't the police just look straight and deal with wrongdoing without any interference with by anybody? Let me tell you that a situation in Sierra Leone.
Have you made recommendations to the security agencies after the 2008 elections with regards to observations you've made, or you know, in the last 3 years or so?
It's in our reports. You know, whatever we find wrong, if there's a commotion and the police did not take action, and if we even reported anything to the police and we did not see any result, we put it in our news reports, and we make recommendations. What
are some of the specifics that are critical to the elections that must be corrected before 2012 December?
For the security side, well, I think one critical thing I can bring out is that the security, those police or security personnel that guard polling stations should first of all educate themselves on the voting procedure, and should be ready to help the presiding officer, that's the person who is in charge of the polling station. But they should also know that...
To help in what regard? What would be their role in helping?
The presiding officer is in charge of the place.
Yes.
And if he says, please, police, this man is coming to vote and his name is not in the register, he doesn't want to go away, he's supposed to be arrested and sent away. But sometimes the police say, well, it's good, this is their job, but only one policeman is in the police station anyway. So if he arrests this erring man and he takes him away, anything else can happen behind him. So sometimes we understand them, which goes to the point that maybe the whole setup it's not strong enough, that there could be even more than a policeman or a security man at a particular police station because of this type of things.
And you've pointed that out clearly.
Yes, it's in our reports, it's in our press statements all the time.
Have you had responses that
let
show
me,
that
let me
there will
just
be some
add,
kind of redress?
especially in terms of the report, one word that has come out strongly in the report regarding the security is that we've already always emphasized that they must remain professional, that they have a professional duty to perform. They are not in to serve the interest of any person. And once they compromise this one, that is when you might have a problem with the police. Now, one dimension of the professional work is having to do with controlling or managing crowd or tension. It appears to me that at one point there is a certain handicap that in the event of tension, how does the police, which is supposed to ensure the protection of the citizens and the electoral process, guarantee that once they are at a loss, that is when they looked unprofessional in the sense that they are unable to act with urgency to arrest a situation. Mm-hmm. In that regard, the bystander now looks at the police and says, look, they have an inclination to work in favor of either party A or party B. That is why they are doing so. I think there is another side of the work.
We understand these things,
Yes.
but going beyond these observations, how are we, or how is CODIO going to, I will use this word, engineer the enforcement of some of the things that must be done, some of the laws, or the putting in place of measures that would curb some of these incidents or enable the police to actually effectively do their job. And I think that is our biggest interest with your work.
Yes, yes. Our enforcement lies in our recommendation only. You cannot go beyond, because you are not the employees of the police, for example. You are interested in what they're doing for us. But when they do something which is not exactly right during election, you can point that one out loudly to the employers to please correct that situation. Otherwise, the outcome will not be good for anybody. Like the cases I was trying to narrate to you. It's clear that something has not been tightened up. So we ask that those things are tightened up. Because if those things happen, we as observers will say them again. We say it again. We have been watching elections since 2000. Not only in the general elections, but also even local government elections. And there are several things we have said. A few may have been corrected, but some are still happening. Like this issue about vote buying. It's in the laws that it's prohibited, it's an offense. But it still goes on. So we as observers would shout on rooftops that this is wrong, please stop it. So it is a moral situation that we
employ. Where are the areas, or which areas would you advocate for the public to be aware of and also contribute their quota, one way or other, to ensure that we have a free and fair elections? And I'm still looking at pre-election preparations.
I will emphasize the area of voter education or citizenship education. Voter education, I mean, for example, you take the last election, for example, where the percentage of spoiled ballots alone was more than or equal to what the gains of one political party. So it does give you a certain picture that then voters, still need more education. The other side of it is that, I mean, educating people to know that election is about a choice of a model of government among a lot that has been. So it is about the good of the country, so that citizens will not be exploited by political parties. When citizens know their right and their responsibilities, they will not allow themselves to be used by Party A or Party B, particularly in fomenting violence that undermines the peace in the country.
So each individual should make it their business to know their rights and to be able to exercise that right effectively. How are you able to independently verify that EC elections are accurate?
Yes. Well, we may not use the word accurate. We will say legitimate.
Legitimate.
Yes.
And why the distinction?
The distinction is that the observation groups are not electoral commissions. So when we're talking about accuracy, my mind goes straight to the results, numbers. We judge or watch the quality of the electoral process, not the quantity. The quantity in this case meaning how many votes did candidate A get and how many votes did he get to lose it. We are saying what is the sanctity of the process? What's the good quality of the process that leads him or her to get this number or that number? So that when we pronounce that, look, you have elections, we have results, everybody is shouting about results, but as far as we are concerned, the elections were not conducted properly. For example, in polling station A, B, or C, there were no elections. Nobody went there to vote, but we have election results. Those are the type of things we look at the quality of the process, not the results per se.
Okay, finally, and we have under a minute to go, but have you deployed any software that you can actually use to help in observing the process?
Yes, the software aspect is what we are doing, we call PVT, parallel vote tabulation. This is an election observation mechanism that watches the election just like everybody watches it, but it is done on a scientific basis where a certain sample, strict sample is taken of polling stations. And we send our people there to watch. And as they watch, they use SMS technology to send us results, that is observations, immediately by code. And these codes come to a central point in Accra. So by the close of election, for example, we will know from our samples that this is the quality of the election.
Thank you very much.
This is supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you.